out, I can figure out what's really going on. So, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I do want to highlight, this forms the basis. So, our organisation spent 8 years trying to figure out how we get to be better with people. And, you know, I'm not going to go off, I promise not to have a rant about why we call this human skills, but if you call them soft skills, then expect them to be treated as such. Right, my question, I was having a chat with Ben earlier on, someone came in and said, yeah, but they're soft skills, and then my first question is, what makes them soft? Just define that for me. Or make it easier, contrast them with hard skills for me. Just tell me, just give me one idea of why they're like that. The science around a lot of those areas now means that they're not. So we've got 5 basic skills: reading people, reading emotion, building and testing rapport, you probably can't see this one, decision making and influencing. Basically, we call those the human skills, and the reason that we're confident about that is we spent 4 years validating this model by looking at child development. Personally, I was so committed I went and had 2 kids. I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, just to check all this stuff out, and it's true. My 4-year-old at the moment is the most influential person in my wife's life. That's not funny. That's all blokes laughing at that, isn't it? Moving on. Seriously, I'll tell you why. We know from the research around very, very, very young children, the first skill that they acquire is reading other people. Right? The aggregation of disparate parts of the face into a face actually has to take place through development. We're not born like that. Right? So the first thing I need to start doing is to recognise other people and find out what's going on with them. Part and parcel of that, that's why these are called the core skills, is reading the emotional response. Anyone ever wondered why the sense associated with smell is so close to the area associated with memory? Did anyone know that? So I could have made that up. Does anyone dispute that? Even better. But it's true. You ever had that smell and been ripped back to a really powerful memory? The reason is the first thing, I can't see, but I've got to smell, I've got to know where that nipple is and know whether it's my mum's or someone else. I don't really care, but I've got to know that that's what I've got to be. So, the point I'm making, we know about all the research, a 9-month-old is able to distinguish between monkeys' faces. Yes? It's able to discern between individual monkeys' faces. By 12 months of age, it loses that ability. Right? It's gone because it's no longer important. Right? The reason that babies learn this skill of reading people and reading emotion is because it allows them to create a relationship. Now, we'll take another time to talk about rapport and what it really is, but rapport is sameness. If you want to learn rapport, what are you going to learn is sameness. It's simple. Right? That's all rapport is. None of this other stuff about smiling and being friends and all that rubbish. If you look at the neuroscience around empathy, it's an incredibly dangerous technique to use with someone you don't know. You shouldn't be using it. You should be using rapport. It's different. The reason that I want to build rapport is because, and this is what my son has spent 4 years doing, is figuring out how my wife makes her decisions. That's how we become influential. Influence is nothing more than helping people make decisions. That's all it is. Alright, if you want to be, I apologise to all the people who spend a lot of time and money trying to put a lot of effort into that, but seriously, if you look at influence, basically, at its fundamental level, here's what happens. My 4-year-old has spent pretty much every day, with a few exceptions, with his mum. You've been able to read her. They have a very close relationship, closer than mine. I have to go to work, right? As a result of that closeness, he is much better able to understand how she makes her decisions. So this manifests itself in him being much more influential. So for example, a couple of weeks ago, he walks up, he stands over near her in the kitchen on a Saturday. Oh, actually, she told me about this because it happened to me. And he stands there and he goes, "Oh." My wife said, she's telling me about it. She said, the first thing I did, I go, "What's wrong, mate?" He goes, "I don't know, Mummy." He walks off. So straight away, she's, "Oh, I hope you're alright." So sure enough, 3 or 4 minutes later, he's standing near her again, just out earshot, and he goes, "Oh." She goes, "Mate, what's wrong?" He goes, "I don't know, Mummy, maybe I need a snack." "Oh, what sort of snack?" He goes, "You know the biscuits that we just bought at the shop?" She goes, "I'll get you one." Work it through. Seriously. Tell you what's funnier though, on Saturday, he's standing up in the kitchen, he walks up to me and he goes, "Oh." I go, "What's the matter, mate? That looks like a sad face," because we're teaching him the language of emotion at the moment. He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What have you lost?" He said, "What?" I said, "What have you lost, mate?" He goes, what? I said, well, the universal trigger for sadness is losing something. Well, nothing. I said, well, anyone who's got sad faces, go and sit down there by themselves because weekends are happy and anyone who's happy. Of course, he's walking there going. Here's the point. Here's the reality. Think about it. Who's the only person you've got influence in the first 5 years of your life if we go back to Andrew O'Keefe's cave? Parents, that's it. We're cast in a completely different situation when you've got to go to this foreign place called the workplace and handle people who aren't our parents. Problem is, and I still remember my young fella coming home last year, he went to his first day at school, he came home and he said, I don't like my teacher. I said, why not, mate? He goes, she won't do what I wanted to do. It's a big deal for him. Right? So let's think this through. We spend our whole life developing these skills, then we get thrown into school and away from our parents and they don't work the way they're supposed to, so we start to shortcut them. We start to look for alternatives. We don't use them the way they should be and we don't put the investment in. We want to get straight to here. Do what I want you to do. The influence is a one-way street. The reason I'm talking about this is I want to give you the context for reading people. Okay, so that's why we're here. We can talk about this stuff later, the technical skills, but I want to give you this context. This is a core foundation skill and here's the rub for the rest of the day. You are only ever going to be as good at doing this as you are as your weakest underlying human skill. Does that make sense? You'll only be as good at this as you are as your weakest of the underlying ones. I had a group of 9 engineers sent to us for a training program. Right? And nothing against engineers, I think they're very easy to deal with. I have a direct communication style and I'm an introvert, so I love it. They sat in the room and said, we don't know why we're here. We have no idea why we have to put up with 5 days of you talking to us. I said, did your 72% staff turnover rate for the last 12 months mean anything? They go, no, if they did what we told them, they'd still be there. Seriously, you know the biggest trouble we had? They just weren't interested in that, so therefore, not only are they not good at it, they didn't want to do it.